as every year, the 5th of May marks Emperor Napoleon's death anniversary. In honor of the little corporal, I decided to make a video covering his last battle and the actual reason for his defeat. On the 18th of June, in the year 1815, Europe stood united in opposition against Napoleon himself, rather than just France. With over 700,000 men mobilized to restore the French monarchy, whose power Napoleon had stolen just a month prior, his defeat seemed inevitable. Facing this overwhelming force were Napoleon's meager 200,000 troops, positioned to defend France. The bulk of France's army marched alongside their emperor to confront the Prussian-English coalition to the north. Perhaps amidst this disparity in numbers, a startling victory could compel the European monarchs to reconsider their decision to challenge Napoleon and therefore shed more blood. Before delving into the fateful Battle of Waterloo, it's crucial to examine the events leading up to it. Once again, the Grande Armée demonstrated its strategic prowess by outmaneuvering the two Allied armies, positioning itself between them and effectively separating what seemed to be a larger combined force. This was a typical Napoleon move. On June 16th, Napoleon launched an assault on Blücher's Prussian forces at Ligny, while Ney engaged the English under Wellington at Quatre Bras, preventing the Allied armies from joining forces. This coordinated strategy initially proved successful for the French, as the Prussians suffered defeat, and Wellington halted his attempts to aid Blücher. However, both Allied armies managed to retreat in relatively good order. Later that day, Napoleon entrusted Marshal Grouchy with the task of pursuing the retreating Prussians, while he himself turned his attention to Wellington's forces. Although Quatre Bras and Ligny were technically victories for the French, the Prussian army remained intact, and Wellington's forces were not significantly weakened. These engagements, though tactically successful, proved costly for the French, who found themselves engaged in two prolonged battles without achieving a decisive outcome, a situation exacerbated by their numerical inferiority compared to the enemy forces. The Duke of Wellington chose a small field near the town of Waterloo as battlefield. With 3 manned houses in front, the British forces were mostly standing on a hill in a defensive position. A suitable terrain if the soldiers could hold the line, but if pushed back, the forest behind them would slow down their retreat. But Wellington was determined to hold off Napoleon until the Prussians had hopefully regrouped and joined the fighting again. At Waterloo, the difference in numbers was far smaller than many historians had originally believed. Additionally, the defenders possessed hill advantage. However, Napoleon was still Napoleon, the most successful general of all time, and his soldiers were just as loyal as they were capable. Veterans who were more experienced than their opponents. So the question is, what went wrong? The thick mud caused by the rain overnight really slowed down the French attack plans. Moving the artillery was tough, and it wasn't until around 11 in the morning that the French could start firing their cannons. Despite their late start, they tried to attack Wellington's right side and the strong farmhouse called Hougoumont, but the defenders fought back hard and kept them out. Napoleon overall didn't think the British army on land was as good as it was, or that their tactics were so clever. British soldiers usually stood in lines 3 deep, so most of them could shoot at once. And they only shot when the enemy was as close as about 50 yards away, to make sure their volleys hit. That was smart, because muskets at that time weren't very good from far away. The French did things differently. Their infantry formation was a lot thicker and therefore shorter. French troops at Waterloo are also reported to have started shooting from about 100 yards away, which didn't cause the expected damage. When they got closer, however, and the British fired back, it was deadly.
At around 4 p.m., French Marshal Ney perceived the British army as retreating. However, in reality, Wellington had simply ordered his men to reposition themselves 100 meters back to gain better cover from Napoleon's cannons. Ney, assembling all available horsemen, launched several cavalry charges at the Allied position. In response, the Duke ordered his men to form infantry squares, which withstood all 7 cavalry assaults with tremendous effort. This proactive decision by Ney only worsened Napoleon's already precarious position on the battlefield. Adding to the dilemma, the Prussian army appeared on the horizon, with Marshal Grouchy nowhere to be found. While some of Blücher's vanguard regiments had been supporting Wellington's center for a while now, Napoleon was forced to divert reserves to hold off the Prussian advance. Yet the French army persisted. Brave soldiers continued their attacks and by 6 p.m. managed to capture the farmhouse known as La Haye Sainte. With their artillery now positioned at this advantageous spot, the French pounded the British lines from close range. It seemed that without retreat, Wellington's army faced certain doom. Meanwhile, Napoleon deployed his last reserve, the renowned Old Guard. These elite troops advanced and initially broke through the first enemy lines. They were the elite of the elite, but not prepared for what awaited them behind the hill. Wellington had ordered his redcoats to lay on the ground and fill their artillery with close-range canister shots. The Old Guard was met with devastating volleys from the British lying in wait. Overwhelmed, the Old Guard faltered. The remaining British, German, and Dutch forces, joined by the advancing Prussians on Napoleon's right flank, launched a final charge sealing the fate of the imperial forces. The Battle of Waterloo was over. Now that we've discussed the crucial events leading up to and during the Battle of Waterloo, which ultimately resulted in Napoleon's defeat, there's one crucial aspect we have yet to address, perhaps the most crucial of all: Napoleon's health. The French emperor had long suffered from various illnesses, which only worsened from his return to Elba onwards. Painful hemorrhoids, constant stomach pain, and severe exhaustion plagued him, to the point where he struggled to even sit in a saddle. His weakened state rendered him unfit to lead as he had done in the past. After his escape from the battlefield, Napoleon was compelled to abdicate once more and was exiled to Staint Helena. There, he spent 6 more years until his eventual death, most likely from stomach cancer. Despite his physical decline, Napoleon's legacy as one of history's greatest generals and emperors endured.